Welcome to Beauty in Stories. This is a space where short, meaningful tales invite us to explore life's deep lessons and the beauty of emotions. Each story becomes a journey to listen, reflect, and rediscover values that are often overlooked in the busyness of life. Join us as we uncover inspiration, joy, and connection in these stories every day. And now, let's dive into today's story, The Portrait. Long ago, there was a wealthy man who lived in a grand mansion filled with precious paintings. His entire life was devoted to his passion for art. Every penny he earned from his business was invested in his art collection, which included masterpieces by renowned painters. Each painting was a source of pride, bringing him joy in his solitary life after the passing of his wife. The man had only one son, his sole source of comfort in his later years. The father's love for art was passed down to his son, and nothing made him happier than seeing his child share the same passion. The two were not only father and son but also kindred spirits, often spending hours together appreciating the beauty in every brushstroke. However, as life often does, fate had other plans. One day, a devastating war broke out, and like many young men, his son answered the call of duty and went off to fight for his country. Though the father's heart ached, he couldn't help but feel proud of his son's bravery. Days turned into months, filled with anxious waiting. Then one day, a letter arrived from the battlefield. It was the kind of letter that no parent ever wants to receive, a notice that his son had gone missing in action. The father's heart shattered, but his agony was far from over. A few weeks later, another letter came, confirming his worst fears: his son had died. According to the letter, while retreating to safety, his son had noticed several wounded comrades still stranded on the battlefield. Courageously, he returned to carry each one to safety. He made several trips under heavy fire, but as he brought the last wounded soldier close to the safe zone, he was struck by a bullet and died. The father's world fell apart. The once vibrant home, filled with art and laughter, now felt cold and empty. As Christmas approached, the thought of celebrating the holiday without his beloved son was unbearable. He refused to participate in the festivities, choosing instead to remain in his lonely mansion, lost in grief. On Christmas Eve, however, a knock at the door echoed through the silent house. When the father opened the door, he found a young man standing there, holding a large package.
"Sir,"
the young man began, his voice soft and filled with emotion.
"you don't know me, but I am one of the men your son saved before he died. If it weren't for him, I would not be alive today. I have nothing of great value to offer you in return, but your son once told me how much you loved art. So, although I am not a great artist, I painted a portrait of your son. I hope you will accept it as a token of my gratitude."
The father, his hands trembling, carefully unwrapped the package. Inside was a portrait of his son, with eyes as bright and a smile as warm as he remembered. Though the painting was simple and unrefined, it captured the very essence of his son. The father's eyes welled up with tears. It wasn't a masterpiece, but to him, it was worth more than all the priceless art in his collection. He took down the most expensive painting from above the fireplace and replaced it with the portrait of his son.
"This,"
he told the young man, his voice choked with emotion,
"is the most precious painting I own. No treasure in this house can compare to it."
The young man stayed with him that Christmas Eve, bringing a small measure of warmth to the grieving father's heart. But not long after, The old man fell ill. And soon he passed away, leaving behind his vast collection of artwork. When news of the wealthy collector's death spread, art enthusiasts from all over the country eagerly awaited the auction of his famous collection. On Christmas Day, the grand auction was held at the mansion, attracting hundreds of art collectors and museum representatives. The hall was packed, with everyone anticipating the chance to acquire one of the renowned masterpieces. The auctioneer stepped up to the podium and announced,
"The first item for auction is this portrait of the collector's son."
A murmur of discontent rippled through the crowd. Someone shouted,
"Why start with this portrait? It's not a valuable painting. Let's get to the real masterpieces."
But the auctioneer remained firm.
"We will begin with this portrait."
He said calmly.
"Who will start the bidding at $100?
He asked. The room remained silent.
$50, $40?
Still, no one made an offer. Finally, an elderly man, who had been sitting quietly at the back, stood up and spoke.
"I only have $10,
he said, his voice trembling with emotion.
I was the old man's neighbor. I knew his son well and watched him grow up. I love that boy dearly, and I would be honored to have this portrait. Will you accept my offer?"
The auctioneer smiled warmly.
$10, going once, going twice. Sold."
The gavel came down, and a wave of excitement swept through the room as the collectors prepared for the real auction to begin. But instead of continuing, the auctioneer unexpectedly announced,
"Ladies and gentlemen, the auction is now closed."
A stunned silence fell over the hall. Outraged voices demanded an explanation.
"What do you mean it's over? We came here for the famous paintings."
The auctioneer held up the late collector's will.
"According to the wishes of the deceased,"
he declared,
"whoever purchases the portrait of my son shall receive the entire collection."
The room fell silent once more. As the weight of those words sank in, they realized, too late, that the most valuable piece in that mansion was not a painting by a celebrated artist, but the portrait of a beloved son, a symbol of a father's boundless love. Moral of the story. This story reminds us that the true value of life cannot be measured in money or material possessions. The greatest treasures are not found in things that glitter or are sought after by the world. They reside in the love we share, the sacrifices we make, and the memories we hold dear. Often, we overlook what is truly precious, only to realize its worth when it is too late. The portrait, though simple, was priceless because it symbolized the eternal bond between a father and his son. Thank you for joining Beauty in Stories for today's tale. I hope these moments have brought you meaningful insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you won't miss any upcoming stories. See you in the next one.
Goodbye!